Yo,
Yo, what's good with you, boy?
what's up, bro? I see you in the shadows in the dark.
Man, I don't know why it's like this. Like my crib, it got nice lighting, but whenever I get on video, it don't seem like it. I got the ring light on. It's weird to
Yeah,
me.
it's the windows. I'm dark too. I got the window and the light, but no love. But it is what
Hmm.
it is. So, um, we here for another press conference, and like a month ago, so yeah, we gotta start interviewing more teachers. Cause I looked on the website, I was like, everything on our website is geared towards teachers, but we don't have that much with teachers. Because
Hmm.
usually when we work with schools, it seems like the kids need all the help and everything is on the kids and nothing to do with teachers. So we said
Hmm.
we're gonna highlight some more teachers. So we've already had our first administrator on, and today we have our first teacher on. And as usual, like, comment, but most importantly, our mission is to serve. So the more people we can get in front of, the better. So go ahead and mash that share button. So, who is our special guest? So our special guest for today, her name is Tamara Lovelock. And before we start, gotta give her flowers while she's still here and not when she's gone. So what I appreciate most from Tamara, we, if you want to count it now virtually, we teach together, but the last what's it been 2 years now? We've been co-teachers in the same classroom. And in my going on almost a decade now, that's
Mm.
been that's been a big struggle for me with co-teachers. No real issues, but my style is very, very unique. And we're going to clash if you're about a book, do what everybody says, coping skills, this, and breakout groups, that. That's not really how I move because I don't think none of that works. I think that works with students who want to work. And we just never clashed that way. You know, we have different styles, but similar styles. But I appreciate her the most for not to make it about me, but like appreciate me. I didn't feel the need to have to play the game like I've had with most of my co-teachers, and just through the years getting to know her as a person. Um, Dope mother, dope woman in general. So I'm very, very proud to have her on this afternoon. So welcome, Tamara. What's up?
Thank you for that. Like you were saying it, and I was cheesing a little bit. That's what's up. I appreciate that.
Was you still on?
Yeah. Yes. Thank you. Thank you so
You're welcome. You're welcome.
much.
All right, so we're going to start off talking a little bit about Tamara and her background, and then we're going to spend ideally a significant amount of time talking about education. So she's a teacher. She's from New York, which you can tell as soon as she says 7 words. I remember when I first met her, I was going to a new school and I was taking her old classroom, and she was pregnant as can be. So I was unloading all of her stuff from her old closet, my new closet, so we could take it down the hall. And I was like, oh, she got New York just bleeding out of her, you know? So she's from New York City.
Oh,
And this part made sense too. I like doing these podcasts with people that I know because their notes say, that makes sense. That makes sense. So this may mean nothing, but how was it or how is it having a mom who grew up in London?
oh, it's like an outside perspective because she, besides just being Caribbean, like my parents are Jamaican, but she grew up in London, and it's almost like she's European. And like now being an adult, I realize that that's not necessarily the best thing. But she's very, she could be very proper and prim. Um, and I realized that, a lot of times her and I would kind of go back and forth because I was opposite that. Um, but also growing up, I didn't understand and make the connections that black people in London had a lot of the same struggles as black people here in the United States. It's just I realized that in London it's kind of like they don't talk about it. You know what I mean? It happens and
Mhm.
it's just talked about amongst the black folk, and then that's it. For everybody else, they don't talk about it. So um
Yeah.
it's an interesting perspective because she, like I said, she could be very, very proper.
Mhm. How
Yeah.
did she end up there?
Um. Well, just like Caribbean people looking for a better life.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah. So her family, her parents left Jamaica when they were young, and
Hmm.
she ended up, she moved there maybe when she was about 12, and then
Hmm.
she came here when she was maybe like in her late 20s, and then had
Hmm.
me a few years later. So yeah, she's very English.
Have you been?
Yes, yes, yeah, we've been quite a few times, especially like when I was younger, um, and that was fun. It's I always like London. London's like New York. Just
Mhm.
you don't think it's fast paced, but it is. It's like way more fast paced than New York City.
Way
100%.
more fast paced.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Oh
They're
wow.
like more advanced with things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
They
when
just
when you
huh?
when you go when you would go to London, would you catch yourself saying "bruv"?
Oh yes, all the time. All the time. I would do that with like my cousins. We still have family there, and they tell me that I have the worst English accent, but I don't think so.
That bruv, that's so cool to me.
I
What's up?
know, bruv.
That just love,
Yeah,
You said, what are you saying?
bruv.
bruv. Be
Yeah,
like, you know how we in America we say bruh, like in London they say bruv with a
bruv.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay. All right. So
yeah.
you gotta explain these parts. So the vacations in your childhood, and I took your quote. You got slapped daily, right? So you was a troublemaker. That's what you're telling us.
I wouldn't say I was a troublemaker, but I was a rebel. I really was. Like it like for no reason. And as I said, like my mother, she was very proper, and that just came from just that English way of being brought up. So I always went against the grain with everything. And I think
Hmm.
that's why I'm able to like relate to a lot of the kids that admin or teachers don't like, so to speak, because like I was classic, just go against the grain just because, not because
Yeah.
I had necessarily a reason, because I wouldn't say that I had a bad childhood at all. It's
Hmm.
just because I wanted to.
Yeah.
And I don't know why necessarily. I still haven't quite figured that out. I mean, I think it's just me, who I am. Like, I always root for the underdog. You know what I mean? Like, I always look at things differently from other people. So I
Mhm.
think that that's just naturally who I am.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you tough though. It's, every time I walk in the classroom, is Miss Lovelock here? Is Miss
I know.
Lovelock here? I say, I don't know. I say, y'all better keep it together before she get here.
I know. I know. Uh, I'm. You know what? That is funny though. But I mean, I know that I'm able to relate to the kids, and the kids can come and talk to me. You know what I mean? Like they are able to be real. Um, I mean, I appreciate even the kids that's like, yo, I can't stand you.
Yeah.
I appreciate the fact that they could tell me that. But I know why they can't stand me, because I'm not letting them fall astray. So,
Yeah.
it is what it is with that.
Well, I think you're one of them teachers that grows on the kids.
Yeah.
Because from the beginning, there's no games, but they have to see you over the long run to see like that you really care. And I could tell
Yeah.
like through time they started to let the guard down. Especially you in DC.
Hmm.
Remember DC?
Yes.
I, I thought I was gonna have to wear a bulletproof vest to class messing with y'all too.
I know. Yeah. She's different from myself.
Mm,
But I understood. Like, she was crying for attention. You know what I mean? So I figured her out. But
yeah.
her, like many of our students, they need attention, and they
Mm,
need you know that positive attention, not that attention where you're getting in trouble, or we taking some away from them. Just somebody to just notice who they are. But
mm.
you got me thinking about her.
Yeah, man. I see her name all the time, and just it makes me think, especially some of the stories that she would tell me of her experiences at home
Hmm.
and just being stuck there for all this time. She's definitely made me think.
Yeah.
So moving on,
Hmm.
do you think this should be a part of schools today? What would that be? Home economics? You said you hated cooking and cleaning, but now you're glad that this was taught to you.
I mean, I remember taking a home ec class in junior high school. I don't know if it's necessarily needed today. Um, I'm gonna take that back. I'm gonna say everyone should have at least a class, just
Mhm.
to get those foundationals. Because even in taking that class, or even just cooking and cleaning at home, I realized there was some things that I didn't like, that I'm like, yeah, okay, I don't absolutely, I don't ever want to do this. And there was some things that I did, and I did easily or naturally. And I think maybe having a class like that can be beneficial to kids, so they can see what it is that they like and what they don't like, and even maybe different in school as it is at home. Like, we have a lot of girls in school where they do everything in the home. You know what I mean? And they realize maybe taking a class, it can be a different perspective. Like, they can learn, like, okay, you can make a living out of this or something like that. So I don't think it'd be bad. I think we should get back to having like foundational skills taught to us in school, because everybody not going to college. Like, it's just
Yeah.
like everybody's not going to college. That's it. So, and I sometimes it gets on my nerves that they keep pushing that. It's not wrong that you want to go to college, but sometimes I think about, like, for myself, I think I would have been in a completely different place, maybe even further along, if I hadn't gone to college. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think about that too. My only regret would be like I'm very happy with the people that I met on my path,
Hmm.
in this physical location. So that only came with going to school here, you
Right.
know. So like that's my only thing is like the school wise part. I think is very overrated. Especially once you get to work, that's when you really learn, you
You're
know.
right. Exactly.
But the
Hmm.
social part, I've never had any other experience close to that. Kind of like being an athlete, but like that's just a game and your
Hmm.
own little team, not a big, huge university. But yeah, but it's like, what else? What else do they tell them? Everything is college, college, college.
I know. Yeah,
But
and
and it's
then
also, I think I know. Wait, sorry to cut you off.
well,
People that I know intimately, like young adults,
mhm,
there's far more that cannot cook than can.
right. That's big. I didn't realize that. I
Well,
didn't even
yeah.
think about
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I know my little cousin can't cook. He
it.
just turned 19.
Yeah.
I can cook. I can cook. All right,
Yeah.
so you go ahead.
I was gonna say that they'll keep the fast food industry going, and we don't need that. But I do appreciate college in the respect of, like you said, just the people that I met. I mean, I met my husband in college, and I went to HBCU, and that's where my mind opened when I went to college. Like, that's where my mind really began to, like, oh wow, like, everything that I've learned before really isn't the truth. Just
Mm-hmm.
because certain classes that we were forced, we had to take in order to graduate, it just put a spark in me, and I feel like it changed me forever. However, college is, like you said, it's a little overrated. It's
Yeah.
overrated.
100%.
Yeah,
Well,
100. Oh,
I just say I think it's overcharged. It costs
Oh
too
yeah,
much.
I know.
It costs too much. Go ahead,
that's what I.
Victor.
That's crazy. I was about to say that. I was about to say. I definitely think, it's overcharged in terms of the schooling. Just like we all said, that's not the part I remember. The part I remembered is the socialization, having to make decisions. Even though I went to a private and boarding school, that I already had to kind of make some decisions. Like, as you get older, you got to make even more
Right.
important decisions in college and things like that. So having the ability to go to college, go live on your own, go make all your decisions, I think that's definitely needed in terms of young adults kind of figuring themselves out. Because in college, a lot of people, just like you said, Lovelock, a lot of people start to figure out who they are, what direction. Because now, when you go to college, you get to kind of go into a new environment. Most of the time, you're just going to be new. So if you were interested in something before that some of your friends at the crib thought was corny or whack, but and you ain't really think you wanted to get into it, now you can do different things like that because you have bigger pockets of people and it's more exposure. So I'm a firm believer of college for exposure wise in terms of just experiencing different things for sure.
Yeah, I would agree. It definitely it forces you to grow up. I have a cousin, her and I are really close, and she didn't go away to college. She stayed at home, and I love her, but she's not mature at all.
Mhm.
Like she's not. It's like, it's just her growing up process has taken so much longer. Um,
Yeah.
and I find that I make a bit of that connection to, she didn't go away. She didn't have to be forced to kind of learn things on her own, if you will. But it is overrated and overcharged.
Very true. And
Yeah.
a lot of people that we know who did not go to college had very, very, very different outcomes than the people we know that did go to college.
Right.
Right? And not because of no one class, like just like the maturity thing, like you got away. So many of them never ever get away. Because
Right.
although like college is not required, if you don't go, you better have a skill.
Right.
You can't just be home and just be home, or you have
Yeah.
a really, really, really long life. But let's hold off on college because we got that coming up later.
Oh,
Um, so two things: you taught yourself a lot. I would have never guessed that you could play the keyboard. Would
oh
have never
yeah.
guessed. Do you still play?
Every once in a while. I really haven't made the time to it, but yeah, I can still play.
Mhm. Okay. All right. A closed mouth doesn't get fed. Tell us about that. Who taught you about that?
My father, my dad, he just always, told me that if I want something, I need to say, you know, um, when I tell people this, people are kind of like surprised, like, but to the core of me, I'm like shy. um, and it took me a while to kind of, navigate and figure out who I was. But my dad would tell me that all the time. You better say something. A closed mouth is not going to get fed. You're going to miss opportunities. And I missed many opportunities not saying anything, for whatever the reasons. I was, nervous, or, scared, or I don't know. It I say that even to my own child. I say that to Mikaya constantly. Like, if you need to say something, say something, say something, because you're gonna miss an opportunity, something that you wanted, and then you won't be able to get it back. So that taught me not to be afraid of people, and just say what it is, and not think about other people's feelings in that regard, because I realized that, like, I didn't want to say something sometimes because, I didn't want to hurt somebody's feelings, or I didn't want them to think that I was, trying to take their spot or whatever it is. But I realized that nobody's worrying about me. So why am I worrying about them? You know what I mean? Um, but I think that's very powerful. We got to be go getters, because things that we want, they're not going to be handed to us. We got to go get it for ourselves. It's closed mouth don't get fed. I literally say that to myself and my daughter almost every day, because yeah.
Are
Yeah.
you an only child?
No, oh God, no. I'm the middle child. I'm the first girl. I have two brothers before me and a sister and a brother after me. Um, I know I know my father and I are very close, and I think because I'm like the first girl, he coddled me in a different way, but he still pushed me. You know what I mean? Like, you go ahead and do it. You got to do it. Um, so yeah, yeah,
That's very true in all facets of life. In one way, that I don't really hear stated intentionally is in business. You know, the best business usually goes towards the aggressor. You know, one person usually sets the pace, and the other
Hmm.
person kind of follows. So closed mouth doesn't get fed. Jim. All right, high school when you was burning the building down. Let's talk about that.
Oh
All right.
God.
So you kind of just talked about some fear and anxiety, but how did you miss an opportunity with Auntie Mary? How did that happen?
Ah. um. Terrible. Well, she I think it was like some performance or some concert or something that she was doing, or like a backstage thing. And I've always been in the chorus, and it was like, I can't remember exactly, but it was pretty much like if the people that performed well or did something, really extraordinary, would have this opportunity to go. And I remember two of my friends were able to go, and I missed my opportunity because like I didn't say, like I wasn't like, hey, look, me, you forgot about me. I remember the teacher, he was like, kind of like picking people out and stuff like that. And like me and my friends, I'm like sitting right next to my friends, and he calls their name, and I'm like, okay, yeah, but I fit that criteria too. And I didn't say anything. And I remember crying, crying like a baby. And I remember my friends like what's wrong with you? Like why you ain't, you know what I mean? And I'm like, I didn't have an answer. Like I literally just, I don't know, to this day, like I have no idea why I didn't say anything. I think it could be just, I was just afraid. I was scared.
Yeah,
Um but that hurt. Because I didn't get a chance to see Mary. Like,
yeah,
that's like an '80s kid's dream. But yeah, yeah, I wish I could go back. That's something I would go back to do.
did you learn from it?
Oh, absolutely, I did. Yes, I did, of course. Yeah, I like I said, I'm not worried about, oh, what this person may say, or what another person may say. If it's something that I want to do, I'd rather try and say something, and whoever it is or whatever it may be say no, or I fail at the attempt, than never to do it, because it's
Mm-hmm.
like, well, what if, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
I'd rather that. I like I said, I try to tell my daughter that. I tell different students that, like, go ahead, just do it, otherwise you'll never know, you know what I mean? So
yeah,
yeah, I
and
carry that on all
that's
the
a
time.
heavy feeling to carry around all the time in terms of the what if. Okay, so you were popular. Everybody knew you. Were you just did you do extra stuff to be popular, or you was just everybody gravitated towards you?
Yeah, no, people didn't gravitate towards me. Nah, not in that regard. I think I mean, I did stuff I wasn't proud of. You know what I mean? Like in high school, like I could just be nasty and extra. Like, you know what I mean? For no reason. I don't know. But again, like, and that's why I say, like, I could relate to some of our students that just do stuff because, you know what I mean? I don't know if I was looking for attention at that time. But yeah, like the principals, guidance counselors, of course the students, like, yeah, that's T right there. She mouthing off at somebody over here, or you know what I mean? Just, it's not good. It's not nice. But I mean, high school was fun though. Like I would do that again. Like some people like, oh, I hated high school. Like, nah, high school was cool for me.
Yeah, yeah.
Fun.
But we didn't get that experience. We got
Mhm.
totally
Huh?
different. I said we
We
didn't
got
get that
yeah.
experience.
What was your experience like?
We ours was I had school Monday through Saturday, study hall almost like every single day. Like it was about around people that was like really wanting to be motivated and successful students from around the globe. We really didn't have to deal with kind of that was like my middle school before I went to my high school. That was like my experience. I think that was actually one of the best things for me personally, because I was one of those kids, like, I wasn't one of the people that would get into trouble. I would just do my work. I was a good student. So I think I was also one of those people that was like, looking back and definitely seeing who the people I hung out with. I was like, we were like part of the group that, in school, they don't do anything wrong, but they just like the goofy crew, but they get looked
Mhm.
over. So that was definitely me. So being in, like, placed in an environment where everyone was focused on doing work and things like that, it definitely allowed me to come out of my shell versus having to, like, witness and all the distractions that are like that were around you. So you were basically like little Layla Ali in high school. You had all of the mouth talking, and then you was probably throwing left and right hooks. That's why you was popular.
I mean, every once in a while, but I would definitely wouldn't know Layla Ali. Like I wish, but I
Yeah.
was, yeah, just terrible. Like if I had to do that over, I would do those things over. You know what I mean? Like that's just terrible. And I would have got better grades too, because like I never studied. I didn't put any extra effort in anything. I just went to class, took a test, and got good grades. I could have got way better grades though. You know what I mean? And I
Mhm.
know like different teachers and counselors would say that to me, like, come on, like you could do way better than what you're doing. But I don't know, I had this like laissez-faire kind of like attitude, like whatever.
Mhm.
I'm already doing it. Like I'm it anyway. So so,
But that's the perfect segue to Dr. Sharfman. You're smarter than you allow yourself to be, and that's something that we tell somebody every single day. It's like, come on, man. And oftentimes, I don't know why. I don't know why. And like, it's hard for me because I've always been an extremely competitive, extremely driven person.
mm,
So whatever school, whatever grade, like I'm not shooting for no passing. Like I'm always shooting for A's. And if I'm on the court or the field or whatever, I'm always shooting to win. So tell us about Dr. Sharfman and why he believed that you were smarter than what you allowed yourself to be.
Dr. Sharfman was my Spanish teacher of all classes, a Spanish teacher, but he he just like from freshman year, he just saw, and I didn't even have him in freshman year. I guess he just like would see me in the hallways and in the lunchroom and stuff, and he would always like, look, Lovelock, I need you, you can do this, you can do that. And I'm like, why do you care? Like what do you like what do you first of all, this is Spanish one, like what are you talking about? Not realizing that you're gonna need Spanish for like the rest of your life here in this country. But I'm like, why do you care? And he would just say, like, you are so much smarter than you're allowing yourself to be, than you're putting off. And I don't know, maybe he saw, I don't know, I know there was a point where I like tried to like make myself bigger than what I was. You know what I
Mm.
mean? Um and I think he saw that, I just always remember that. I didn't put it forth for years. I didn't what he said really didn't mean anything to me for years, even in college. But um Dr. Sharpman, I'll never forget Dr. Sharpman, because he always went above and beyond for me. When I would get in trouble, he would end up being in the principal's office or coming to whatever meeting, like, okay, no, she can come to my class, you know. Um yeah, I'm pretty grateful for Dr. Sharpman. He made me realize some things about myself that I knew already, but I didn't I didn't I didn't do nothing with it, Yeah.
So that's what teaching is about too. Like
Mm,
ain't about no math, English, or something. Whenever you hear about a teacher from an adult, it's almost always about the impact that they had on them outside of the classroom. They can't remember anything that happened inside the classroom. All right, so now
mhm.
let's go to college. So you went to Morgan State University
Yeah, Biz.
in Baltimore. If you ever
Yep.
had somebody, my friends from Baltimore, they say Baltimore is not in Maryland. Baltimore's in Baltimore. So
Yeah,
where you
Baltimore's
from?
not a real place. The things that happen in Baltimore, even
Oh
growing
man.
up in New York City, I a lot of like crazy things. I saw that in Baltimore. Okay,
Hmm.
right
Hmm.
there in Bmore.
Yeah. So gun violence, fights, and then you already touched on your great awakening. But wherever you want to go about it, tell us about your experience at Morgan.
Morgan has a special place in my heart. Like, even though we in that same breath, I'm like, oh, college is overrated. All the kids are they're trying to push up all the kids to go to college, but I had fun in school, man. Like, like Morgan was dope, and you know what too? This is what I did appreciate. Um, I met black people from everywhere. Like you from Wyoming, you from Oregon, like what? You know what I mean? Like I know that black people are everywhere, but like being at a HBCU, it was just so surprising to me. And like what KG said earlier, finding people that liked the things that you liked that didn't, the people back home used to be like, oh, okay, yeah, like why you like that or how you gonna do that? But you go and you meet a plethora of people that have your like mind, and it's like, oh wow. Um, and I mean, I grew up like this is where I took that like okay, I can do all of this. You know what I mean? Um, I would definitely do Morgan again, absolutely, and I would have got better grades too. I had a 3.0 average, but
Hmm.
that was without any effort. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Like just going back all of my education, I would have put effort into things
Hmm.
to get, better grades. I used to run track at Morgan too.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, I was pretty fast. But I tell this to my daughter, I wish I would have stayed on the team. I didn't want to I didn't want to get up early in the morning. We used to have to get up at like 5, 6 o'clock. I didn't want to get up. I wanted to party. I wanted, you know what I mean? Like I wanted to like hang out and do fun stuff with my friends. And I lost opportunities, like not thinking that,
Yeah.
okay, let's just do this for a little while. Like I didn't realize like, okay, if you sacrifice for a moment here, it could carry on for a lifetime. And I didn't want to do that back then. But I'm still very grateful for Morgan. Yeah, some of my closest friends
From
went to
Morgan.
college with me. Yeah.
So,
Hmm.
yeah, you hit on something that was extremely like um something that like took me by surprise in college when you said that like going to a D1 track school and understanding how much you had to put in, right? And to me, like I didn't even think like, yo, if you got to wake up at this time. Like to me, that was just something that I had to do. But over time, like I would see people like quit the team because of those same reasons. Like, yo, like I don't have this passion. Like this isn't for me. So like that when I was in college, that was something that was so like mind blowing to me. It was like, yo, like you got a brotherhood right here, and like and it was like not, and the reasons why was just because they didn't want to like commit that time, right?
Right.
And that was like, if for example, in Malcolm's point, like he just didn't want to be involved with chaos and places where they were just super unorganized. Just the stereotypical HBC like sports program, how he was kind of explaining it, right?
Mhm.
To me, that was so surprising to see, right? Because going to school, I'm like, oh, I'm a college athlete. Everyone's gonna love this. And then like seeing that perspective and meeting other people with that perspective, it was just like, wow, like it was just so mind-boggling to me. And I wonder now, like your thought was like, I wish I would have did this more because I would have had more opportunities, right? It would have made um would have gave you a couple of more habits for you to have, right? So
Exactly.
that makes my brain wonder, well, what about the people that I went to school with? Like, I wonder if they still feel that was the best decision. So that was something that like tickled my brain because I could never understand that. It was like, yo, like, I just don't get it. Like, you
Yeah.
just want to party. So, because I enjoyed partying too, but I also enjoyed waking up at 5 because I was all around my homies. So it's just a different mindset thing, but that's pretty interesting.
Yeah, I was even in the choir with Mr. Carter, and the choir would travel and all of that, and we would have to get up and eat like, and this was another thing at Morgan, or at least in a choir. I didn't they wanted us to like all sit together when we ate lunch and stuff like that, or when we went to eat dinner, and like I thought that those people were like lames. Like I was like, I don't want to sit over there with them. So
Mhm.
I eventually I didn't remain on the choir. And people, I know people now that stayed on the choir, and they have different sort of deals, and they've gone on to travel the world just singing and stuff like that. Not saying that I would have necessarily done that, but again, I missed opportunities. And this is not even me just with my closed mouth not getting fed. It's just, I think that just goes back to just me not like pushing. You know what I'm saying? Like I don't know if you heard throughout this whole time. I'm like, okay, I wish I could have gone back because I could have got better grades. You know what I mean? Like I didn't. I was cool with just like, all right, I don't got to do nothing, and look, I'm still passing. Look, I still got a
Yeah.
B. You know what I mean? Um, and I talk to my students about that. Like you can do more. You can just do it. You know what I mean? You commit yourself a little bit, it'll pay off in the long run. And I didn't realize that until late.
Yeah, and that's very important, and that's really all we teach is just work ethic.
Yeah.
You never know what opportunity is going to be the opportunity, and once that becomes a lifestyle, it's easy to work hard. But I would have quit too, because like at a collegiate level in an art or a sport, you're spending 70% of your time with those people. And if those ain't people you rock with, it's gonna start to take the love out of what you're doing. Because like
Yeah.
even after my 2 years, when I was done football, the only people I hung around was the football team. Like
Hmm.
wasn't around no regular people. Like that was my that was my cohort of people. But then also what I appreciate more and more is going back to our high school experience. Like
Hmm.
college was easy. Like, and I coasted too, but I got a 3.8. And when I graduated, me and Brandon, everyone's like, "You graduated? Like you went to class? Like all you do?" I can't even tell you what they say I would do, but acting crazy and stuff. And I've never seen you in class. Yeah, bro, I'm smarter than you, and I'll be at your graduation next year, and you
Yeah.
got to give me another shot.
Right.
So that those I guess pre-collegiate years are very, very important so that you can take advantage of college. But then once again, for those people who never even make it to college, they don't get to go through that.
Right.
You
Or they
know?
they do. They go through a whole lot later. They really experience those hiccups in life when they have to like be serious. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
Like being in college, like my father paid my tuition. My father made sure, like we lived in an apartment at some point, maybe my last 2 years. My father made sure my rent was paid. Granted, I had to, make sure I had gas in my car, and I had to make sure that I was eating, but I knew that I would have a roof over my head even if I didn't pay that rent. You know what I mean? I knew that I was still gonna be able to go to class because my father was able to pay for it. So yeah, you still have that, I guess, cushion, and just like KG said, it allows you to grow up because you out there swimming, to a certain extent in the pool, but not the ocean yet.
Yeah.
And people who don't necessarily get those opportunities or doing it at any point, they have to do it in real life. And
Mhm.
that's when you have people where they mess up, and then they maybe even fall into depression because they out here 25, 26, and they got kids now, or they have a wife or a husband and they mess up, and that's when it really can like take a toll. um I don't know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's crazy. You just said something that I realized that a lot of people think, right? You said in real life, like we were in college, that was still real life, right? But a lot of people, when you in college, like, yo, I'm not living a real life right now. Like, you know what I mean? So it's just that right there, it explains and sums all of it up that we just said, right? Um, when you don't go to college, like you really gotta work, like get to it, unless you are like a trust fund baby or something. But usually if you're not in college, you at work, right? So um that definitely is cool to hear someone, because I was like, yo, college for it wasn't like real life, yo. Like that was 4 years of like extended more opportunity in high school for real. So I agree on the same thing. Like, yo, like that's not don't consider myself grown up until like I graduated college. And shoot, sometimes I don't even consider it, because like my first couple of years out of college, that wasn't real life to me either, because I was lit. Like I was playing a sport that I've been doing since I was 9. So to me, real life wasn't until like 27, right?
Oh,
So
wow.
that's just crazy that you said that.
So all that time you was like still having fun, even though you were working and doing your sport. It was still like fun, I guess.
Yeah, because I didn't really have to go through a lot of some of the tribulations that young professionals did at the time, right? Like 24, 23-year olds, right? They like, oh my gosh, I just had this major, but my major isn't hiring. Like, for example, Malcolm, like when he got out of college, like his first job, he hated it, right? So to me, like my first job, I was like, yo, this is my first job. Like I love it. So
Right.
it's just definitely an interesting concept.
Malcolm, what was your first job out of school?
I was an executive manager at Target.
Oh, okay. I think I remember you talking about that. I worked at Enterprise Rent a Car.
Mm,
Man, they killed them HBCUs. Somebody
yeah,
walked
they
across that stage working for Enterprise.
The worst, the worst. But again, though, I appreciate the people that I met doing that, but I hated that job. I hated that job. I remember I used to tell my manager, like, I'm not washing nobody's car, so don't ask me. Oh
Yeah,
Lord. And I used to get written up.
retail is tough in general.
Yeah.
Retail is just it's tough.
It
All right, so career. So right out of school, you're a recruiter for Citigroup in Midtown Manhattan.
Mhm.
So how was that?
It was fun. Like I liked, what being a recruiter did, it allowed me to like meet different people on different like levels and stuff like that. And I liked helping people get a job. So it was like, like, okay, I found this awesome skill that you have and I made it fit with, X, Y, and Z part in Citigroup that was hiring. So I enjoyed that. I really did. That was after Enterprise.
Okay.
um yeah, and I kind of felt like, like I was in control, but I was like helping people.
Hmm.
But I definitely learned a lot, how to just navigate. And this was my first time really really working with white people, honestly. Like I worked with, clearly different races at Enterprise. Um, but all of us on that crew, we were like, we were young. We were like 20 something. You know what I mean? So we were like kids. It wasn't necessarily corporate America. That was my first time in corporate America. And that's when I realized that I couldn't necessarily be me. I couldn't really be myself. So I learned how to navigate that world. But I liked helping people in that regard. Yeah, I enjoyed that.
Okay. So then you transition to teaching. And tell me if you got lucky being the person that you are. And what I mean by that is that you wanted a job where you could be with her all the time. There are a lot of teachers who clearly became teachers because of the schedule.
Mm-hmm.
and they ain't cut out for. Um, so do you feel you got lucky just because you can hang just because of the person that you are, or were you intentional about becoming an educator and the schedule just so happened to be a positive that came along with it?
What you mean? I don't get what you're saying though. Like
So, all
lucky.
right. So say you got two teachers, right? One teacher
Mm-hmm.
says, I'm gonna be a teacher because they got a dope schedule.
Mm-hmm.
Another teacher says, I'm gonna be a teacher because they got a dope schedule. But one teacher, their personality is just made to be a teacher. So, all right, I can do this. I'm pretty good at this. The other teacher is not made to be a teacher. And they ran into something they wasn't prepared for. Right? So did you pick being a teacher because you wanted to educate people and all that? Or did you pick it because of the schedule and just because of the person that you are, you stumbled into a good thing, you got a good thing going for you?
Okay. I mean, initially choosing and deciding I wanted to go into education, I had my daughter, and I realized, once I had her, that unfortunately, the brunt of being a parent was going to be on me. And I was just so infatuated and just so in love with her. Like I just wanted to learn so much about her development. So I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna go to school and I'm gonna be a teacher because I get to be with my daughter and I could learn all this stuff about her. So that was the initial, literally the initial thinking in my head. When I went to school, it was like my eyes opened up even more to learn and understand people and development in that way. And I'm like, I could do this. I can help people like that. Like I can start when they're small. Because I said I'm going to do elementary school.
Mm-hmm.
My first teaching job was in Brownsville, Brooklyn. And I don't know if you know anything about Brownsville, but we call Brownsville Vietnam because it's wild. Like it's the wild, wild west. And I'm like, I'm gonna work here. I'm gonna help these kids. I'm gonna make a difference. Kind of like the kids teachers that come in like, yeah, I'm gonna change. I'm gonna save the world. But I'm like, yeah, I could do this because I am these kids. Like I know these kids. My first job out of grad school, and they put me. I had a self-contained class with maybe 9 to 10 9-year old boys. It was all boys in the class. And I was like, what did I do? I'm like, why did I do this? I'm teaching them, I'm showing them even in unconventional ways, the way by the book, and it wasn't like they wasn't trying to hear it until I had to figure out like, you know what? I'm going to speak to them like regular. Like regular. That's it. Like I'm gonna talk to them like regular. And eventually it was like, okay, all right, Miss Lovelock, I'm gonna do what you asked me to do. You know what I mean? But initially I was like, I'm not doing this. I don't want to do this because this is crazy. Like crazy fights, like just crazy. And I was like, why did I do this? But eventually, like I said, I learned to try to relate to the children. Um, of course, that was elementary school. Coming to junior high school, where we are now, you kind of have to have a different. You can't speak to them as babies in that way. You have to be different. You have to be firm. That's what I did realize, being a female, that they try to manipulate me to a certain extent, and I'm gonna say it's because I'm a female. But I realized that I had to be firm and but still relate to them. You know what I'm saying? But I mean, I appreciate it now. You know, I think the system in general is garbage. Like I feel like our kids are not really learning to be adult, be productive. Um, but I look back at my first year and I'm like, yeah, I'm good now. Like you put me in a classroom with anybody, I'm straight.
What grades have you taught?
I've taught kindergarten, every grade. I didn't teach. I've taught all the way up through seventh grade. Yeah, I thought there was a grade that I didn't teach. Yep, I taught all the way from kindergarten all the way up to seventh grade. I've never taught eighth
I
grade.
I think you would kill it at the high school level.
People will tell me that all the time. Initially, my apprehension with high school, I'm like, the girls are big, like everybody's bigger than me. So I was like, I didn't want to be, I didn't want to teach high school. Um, and now I'm like, okay, I'm not going to go back for that certification, but I've always been told that, always. That's why I
Yeah.
come into DC. I'm like, okay, let me try. I'm gonna do middle school. Like I didn't do that big jump to high school, but I've always been told that.
No. High school is like middle school is trash. It's trash.
Yeah.
It's trash. High
Why
school
you
is
say that? Trash?
yeah, trash. Like middle school is like, and maybe because I'm still so used to older kids, I'm just not like a young kid kind of person. Like at least academically, like outside of the building, I can deal with anybody. But and it's also like a combination of how things are. Like they get to do what they want. Like if you got middle schools who can do what they want, I don't know. It just hasn't really been a pleasant experience for me as a teacher. Luckily, though, it's pretty cool people and you can actually connect with kids. You know? I don't really feel like I could connect with the kids at the middle school level. Now you can, but it's so shallow because they don't really know too much yet.
I
You
know.
know,
Yeah.
but it's very unfulfilling for me. But you said or you hinted to that the system's not working. So what do you think about the system? What is it about it that's not working?
Well, I mean, first of all, I think that the way in which that we have to teach the children is not working. You know what I mean? Because really and truly, I do not think, and outside of just working, teaching virtually, I don't think the kids are really like learning anything. You know what I mean? Like they get like a roundabout idea of something, and then they have to take a standardized exam that says, okay, whether they meet expectations or not. But they're not learning anything. Um, and that annoys me. Like some days I'm like, why am I doing this? Like they're not learning this anyway. You know what I mean? And then I have to be observed and evaluated on that. And I think
Mm-hmm.
that that's garbage. Do I necessarily know how to change it? Not really. I don't. You know, I have some suggestions, but the kids are not learning, and that's what annoys me. You know, my daughter's in she's in ninth grade, and I now a lot. I'm like, look, just pass the class. I'll teach you. Don't worry about it. You know what I mean? Like, just do your work, pass the class. I got you because I'm a teacher. You know what I mean? That right now I'm just like just finagle the system so you can get to a certain point to where you don't need it anymore.
Yeah,
Um, but we wasting the kids' time, honestly.
yeah.
I think now more than ever, virtual learning has put, just like you said, has put a bigger responsibility on the household to teach the child, right? Especially with connection. Obviously, y'all have more skin in the game than me, but in terms of just my experience, when you're in person with someone, they can physically feel you, they can see your energy, they all of this. So they're like, if I know one of my students is having a bad day, I can come put my hand like, yo, you good? Like, what's up? Like, go take a walk, something like that. Like on virtual, that has to come from the crib, and it has to be something like, because not a lot of kids are gonna be like, all right, I'm gonna do my assignments XYZ right now, boom, 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 and I'm good. Like, not a
Right.
lot of kids are gonna do that, especially the kids we work with, right? So
Yeah.
virtual learning has forced this connection between family, the home, and the student that simply isn't getting met, and it's making it even more obvious, right? Because when the students would come in school, obviously you can tell the students who parents aren't as invested as other people. Now it's like blatant
Yeah, I know.
students that guardians or whoever's looking after them, they're adults, let's say. You can tell the ones who don't put in the time to actually understand or know, or just just like I said, be in the know of what's going on, and that makes it extremely hard and frustrating, just like you said.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I mean,
Well,
is it their fault though? I speak to different parents that are my friends, and they're like, this is hard, to manage their children at home and to even work as well. But knowing what their kids are doing is quite difficult. And I'm not sure what the resolve is for that. Before, at least it was like for parents to say, okay, you know what, the kids can go to school, but now parents have to. It's 100% on the parents, as you said, because they're home, and you see that they're not managing it. They're not managing it well. Sometimes I think like our parents need to come to school too. You know what I mean? Like, and learn certain things, because either they've forgotten or they just don't know.
yeah.
And it manifests itself within our children, and that's where sometimes I feel like, like we're babysitters, honestly, because
Mhm.
then, like I said, they're not learning.
Yeah.
They're not, at least not
Well,
in public schools.
no, they're not. No, well, number one, they don't have to. Like
Right.
I'm not sure if you were there, but we were in a meeting this week, and there's all these resources, primarily to the kids who are failing, who are not going to use them. That's where we spend 99.999% of our time, with the
Right.
kids who fail and who ain't doing nothing. And all of them don't have any drastic situations at home. The far majority of them just ain't doing nothing. But
Mm-hmm.
we were having a meeting about how we can help this young student, and another teacher was like, I had this young student last summer. So they failed whatever grade. They failed sixth grade, seventh grade. They failed seventh grade. They had to go to summer school before eighth grade to make up for seventh grade. They failed summer school. They still promoted to eighth grade, and now they're failing eighth grade. You don't have to learn, like you. And we know from when the FBI investigated the DC public schools 4 years or so ago now, you don't have to come to school.
Right.
Like you can just pass, right?
Right.
And virtual, I don't really. The same kids speaking for me that are doing well now were the same kids who were doing well in person,
Exactly.
and the
Exactly.
kids who were doing trash in person are doing even more
Right.
trash
Mm-hmm.
virtually, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I've always put the onus on the parents, like, and I'm very, very adamant about this. This you don't got know nothing about school. What else do you got going on in your life? You got some intellect other places. You know how to send emails. You know how to
Right.
text. And like now, how you don't know your grades? I bet you know how to check Instagram. And like now, there's no reason a kid or parent should not know their grade. Like
Yeah.
you get an alert to your phone.
Mm-hmm.
Everything is there. We're required to call you a million times.
Which
We're
I don't
required to.
do.
Yeah, I've called one parent
I don't do
ever. I always say that. And I just sent an article to the group chat. Next week, he's going to train with Floyd Mayweather, and because
that.
he's fighting on that card when he's fighting Logan Paul, dude. His first professional fight. Because it was a kid I believe in, and I met his dad too. That was a big thing. A lot of the problems are the black kids, right? A lot of problems are the black kids, and for a majority of them don't have fathers, or it
Yep.
seems like from my experience, the ones who do, mom and dad are disconnected. And it's like mom is the one who's like court mandated to talk to school, but then you talk to dad. It's like, I should really be talking to dad. Or
Right.
or vice versa. But I
Mm-hmm.
remember the first parent teacher conference, he says, yo, Mr. Malcolm, he said, if you ever catch this man lacking, call me. That's not what we do in our house. Everything we do when we show up, we perform. Right? And we built a relationship from there. That's the only parent I've ever called. And the dude was the little kid. His name is Jalil. He was doing good. He had like a B, but I knew he had more. I noticed him that he was starting to get distracted. I called him right on the site, like, "Yo, talk to your pops." Boom, never had a problem again. But the
Right.
kid that never comes to school, that's failing and all that, they're that way because of their parents
Right. I mean,
or
ultimately.
their providers or whatever the
Mhm.
case may be. And there's far, far, far too many excuses made for the kid is a residual of the family. So I'm a big believer, especially in the black community. I don't think things are as bad as we make them because I believe that we don't take advantage of the opportunities that we have collectively. Some of us do, and I know it's not fair, right? But
What you mean?
okay,
Opportunities like what though?
all right. So, school's one, right? A lot of
Mhm.
people choose not to learn, right? They
So
they
you mean
choose
like the parents?
the parent not learning in school.
Yeah, that's what you're saying.
No, like the kid. Like I believe a kid. Now, let's say just got some personal life experience. All right, they got some things going on. But a kid is only the parent prepares the kid to be a student in the
Hmm.
classroom.
Right.
That's obvious,
Hmm.
and that's a choice. Like we can all. I know I'm a teacher and an educator and all that kind of stuff, but I believe you can. All you gotta do is teach them to speak well, to listen, to show up, to be respectful. We can do the rest.
Right.
Like it's just not in our culture. Like at the high school level, when I taught a lot of Hispanics, and I'm not being general, their number one question was, how is his or her behavior?
Yeah.
Very, very rarely would they ask about grades. They
Hmm.
ain't really seem to care. But what kind of man or woman is showing up to your classroom? And they were very, very easy to teach. Even the troublemakers, the gangsters, because they had a system. Like, yo, don't cause no trouble in school. Don't
Right.
don't bring us no extra attention. We already know how the Caucasian kids do, but the black kids is just different. And that's not nothing that like we can't control.
So that's what I'm saying. So I agree with you. It's the parents, but so then what's the breakdown then? You're saying that we as a culture don't take advantage of opportunities.
Mm-hmm.
So what opportunities you mean? So all right. So I'm a mother. I
Mm-hmm.
have children, and I've prepared my kids. Be respectful, listen, that sort of thing. Where's the breakdown then? What am I
Well,
then not doing?
I've met some of your kids, and your kids aren't like the kind of kids that we're talking
Right. I mean, and I thank you, but I didn't mean like me, Tamara. I'm talking about me, Black society.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
what's the breakdown there? I don't know. I think a lot of people, number one, are overwhelmed, right?
Yep.
Just from generation after generation after generation. Right? You know me, I'm a no excuses kind of person. But eventually there's that person, that generation after generation after generation that says it ran in my family until it ran into me. So I'm gonna make the decision that things are gonna change for my kids. Right?
Yeah, but
Um,
you don't know what you don't know.
True. So
You know
but
what I'm
you gotta go
saying?
find
So
out. You gotta go
I mean,
find
I
out.
I, I agree. I agree with you 100%. It just I'm trying to just think about, I speak to different parents, being a special educator, and it's like, well, they're doing this, they're doing that, they're doing this, or at least they're trying, or at least it seems as if, and it's still like your kid still comes to class and cuts up or still doesn't put any effort in. I What's the breakdown? I agree with you saying, like, just the breakdown of the family household. Either dad's not
Mm-hmm.
around, or when he is, there's already a disconnect with mom and dad anyway, and the child sees that. But what are we doing wrong as a culture where, as we said, Hispanics, then you don't have no, you could teach them, we could teach them. We already know what the majority does. We could teach them also. How do we as educators, how do we get past that? Like, I
Oh,
don't.
we can. Oh, that's what you're
I
asking. We can.
I think in our society, um, education like really necessarily isn't valued as high like as it may be in other cultures. Um, so that doesn't really take the top priority, right? Especially for some parents that are overwhelmed, right? I got to do this. I got to work this job. I got more kids. Like, then, I got a couple of kids. I got to do this. Like, and the time is like, where do I fit that time in to teach, like, kind of character skills? And I don't know, like, I, that's a breakdown that we can talk about for hours.
Right.
Um, because we all know what we're talking about, right? Like, we all been in classrooms where it's like, yo, I just feel bad for certain students, like the students who want to learn, the students who come prepared and things like that. Because some students come to school and it's their escape, like they're free from like their hell. Like, let's be real.
Yeah.
So, um, other people come and then they imitate what they see at home, right? We socially learn things. A lot of times in things like that, issues that we have going on bleed over into school. And that's something that's extremely tough with breaking down our culture of figuring out how can we as a collective. And I say this oftentimes, like my senior thesis in college, I wrote about the oppositional culture theory, which is states that students of color knowingly underperform around other students of color for the with the fear of being called or labeled white, right? So in our and necessarily sometimes in our society, when you're highly educated, you're looked at as white, like you're trying to become white, and that's sad. You know, I want to be educated because I want to do this. Now I'm considered white, right? And we see that, and I seen that because when I went to away from my boarding school, that's one of the first things that everybody in the black community told me. Yo, don't you stay black? Don't you go out there and be in the white boy? Like, bro, that's because I got an opportunity to go and get a higher education. That mean I'm not black no more. Like, you know what I mean? Just because I have a different exposure to different experience and things, and it's important for me to receive that education. That means I'm not black no more. So this is extremely deeply rooted, and that's something that we could legit probably have a Netflix special on to kind of tackle that, because it's no one way street. Like, it's a cause and effect of everything. Obviously, a lot of it is parenting and trauma and poverty. The list goes on. But like Malcolm said, it's important to have the members of the community, and which is why we do what we do, which is why you do what you do, is to inform people like, yo, like, this isn't normal.
Yeah.
Like, you living in these high stress situations, you always having to look around your shoulders, you not being loved, like, that's not normal. And unfortunately, and especially with a lot of stuff on social media, it's a lot of these things are normalized. And oftentimes, sadly, that's what the kids think is correct. That's what they think they have to be, right? Because we've been that age before. Like, we know things that influence us, but the difference between our age and when we were young bulls, like, we didn't have access to billions of people and unlimited information in our hand at all times, right? So that's another thing that, that's a factor as well. People wanting to be different ways to following other people. So I can keep going all day about this, but I'm gonna let young Malcolm or Lovelock take the wheel.
Um, I think part of the difference is why our children aren't learning as well is this. And I think Malcolm, you kind of hinted to it. They don't have to. They don't have to at school, and they don't have to at home. Like there's no consequence. You know, despite all that I did when I was a kid, I got in trouble, and I know that I could have gone further with the limits that I pushed, but I knew I was gonna get in trouble. You know what I mean? And whatever that encompassed. I do realize like a lot of the kids today, they don't really get in trouble. Like, okay, mommy yells at them. Like I literally had to tell parents like, take the phone. Like the phone is yours because you're paying for it. Take it. You know what I'm saying? Like they got a TV in their room, take it. Like, like, okay, you told them that they were going to go out Saturday and I don't know, they did whatever at school.
Mm-hmm.
Don't make them go. Like, it's just, you know what I'm saying? Like, I do hear that a lot. Like, parents or moms, like, oh, well, I don't want them to be mad at me or they're going to be upset. Like, those are things that I don't understand. I'm not telling parents to beat their kids, but these parents are like scared to give their children consequences, and I think that may be some of the differences, at least with as you said, the Hispanic community, because they're not necessarily teaching their kids, because maybe they, a lot of time they're not necessarily speaking the language, they didn't go to school here, so there's a breakdown anyway. But if you bring anything home, you have somebody calling here, a teacher calling here, you're going to get in trouble.
Yeah.
So it bothers me though that our kids aren't learning. They're not learning because they're not being forced to at home, and they're not being forced to in school for a number of different reasons. And I don't know what I can do as an educator necessarily to ensure that our kids are learning, honestly.
Okay.
And it
Okay.
frustrates me.
But I don't think there's nothing you can do. Like that's why we came up with Game 7. It was like, yo, this school thing ain't working. And I think the biggest thing, primarily for African Americans, is like you said, there's no consequences.
Right.
They're just pumping people through the system, right? Pumping people through the system, and we don't inconvenience parents. Like your kid don't come to school, we gonna chase you down. Hey, you got your son and your daughter. That's not my son and daughter. Are you gonna come to school today? No, you don't come. F. You miss a certain amount of days. See you again in sixth grade next year, right?
Yeah.
But now you cannot get left back, and everybody should not get left back. But it is a wake up call, right? Or
Right.
you get left back twice. Now you're going to alternative school, right? Or
Hmm.
you get into a fight, you're suspended.
Yeah.
Now, oh, we don't suspend kids because the more a kid is suspended, the more likely he or she is to go to prison. Well, how about you suspend them, but they don't go home? How about you suspend them? You take one of these two or three vacant schools, make it nice. That's a suspension school where we go there and we'll teach you character and tutoring, and we'll have
Right.
police and inmates and teachers and entrepreneurs and whoever else come in and teach you things and teach you about the opportunity that you're wasting in the general education school building. And because now it'd be like two or three kids each period that ruin education for everybody else because they get
Right.
to do what they want. But God
It's
forbid a teacher does what he or she wants, then we fired or there's a magical issue with our certification or whatever the case may be. So I think that there needs to be consequences, and once again, that puts more onus on the parent. Like, yo,
right.
if you don't do this at home, he or she is going to walk across that stage and they're going to be a problem in your back for the rest of your
Oh,
life.
yeah. Yeah.
Especially if
Yeah.
they coming from the hood and it's a young man, he got like 5 years in ticking, you
Right.
know?
Yeah.
Especially if you live out here in this jungle.
Mhm.
And it terrifies me on graduation day. Like, it's not a happy day. It's like,
Really?
man, like, I wish I could just call you back the first period next year. And I'm sick of seeing my students just drop off the face of the earth. And I'm seeing some of them looking bad. Like everywhere I go, I see kids or somebody I know now. And it's just like, man, it's
Yeah.
just it's very disheartening. And I believe it's only us, like not teachers, but us as African Americans, nothing's going to change until we change.
Right.
Like this
The
this is
onus is
a
on us.
tangent, just like I talked about last week with the police violence. I was watching a documentary on Chicago. This from a couple of years ago, like 2019 or 18 or something. There were um 23, I think, police shootings, right? We trip out on the police. There was over 2,500 black on black police shootings.
Mhm.
The
Right.
police ain't the problem,
Right.
you know.
Ultimately,
So
yeah.
I
Yeah.
just think we gotta take ownership, you know.
I know. I remember when I taught in Brownsville, and when children got suspended, they didn't go home. You had to
Okay.
go to another school on the other side of the hood. So
Uh,
if you know anything about the projects, if I live in this project, if I live in Brownsville houses,
mhm.
I might have beef with people in Howard houses. You know what I'm saying? Or people in Van Dyke. So you gonna suspend me and I gotta go to school for 5 days with people in Van Dyke where I may get jumped or you know what I mean? And I remember parents calling like, please, please don't suspend him or please don't suspend her and put her over here. You know what I mean? It became an inconvenience for the parents because,
Yeah.
and granted, of course, we wasn't trying to set people up to get jumped or you know what I mean, but we knew like, okay, the parents would be in their kid like, listen, you better not get suspended because you know you're gonna have to go to this school that's in such and such hood, you know what I mean, as opposed to your school right here in the middle of our projects. And I
Yeah.
remember it was a very big deterrent. Like kids that would get suspended, they didn't get suspended like it was like one time, you know what I mean, like it would because they didn't want to go back to that school that was in the other project seriously, and they would have to go if they was in fifth grade, they got suspended and they had to go into a fifth grade class and still do all the work
Mhm.
and come and make sure it went back, to their class. So and that was a big deterrent. But I agree with you, as a culture, it is, we're the ones, it's gonna fall on us. But as much as I say that it falls on us, and we tell people that, or we tell parents, we got to tell them or show them how, because clearly they don't know, they don't
Yeah.
know, and it's frustrating and it's sad. It really is, because
But I think
like,
the system would have to change for us to show them. Because the things that need to be shown, we don't have the time. Like we don't have the time. Like they would need to take a week, a market period, a year off, whatever, from general education, and they would have to go through like a life skills, character building, whatever kind of program, so that then when they get back to education regularly, they could take advantage of it. Because general education is, I don't think it's going to change. Like it's working for white people, it's working for Asians, it's working for Hispanics, it works for everybody but us. And if you look at the stereotype, if you know our stereotypes, each different culture has a different one, but like ours is like the only one that's bad. Like stereotypes. Asians are good at math and they work hard. Hispanics work hard and they're very, very disciplined. White people are just good students. Black people, wow, they don't care, right? And if you go in the building, the
that's
ones I've been in, it seems to be fairly true.
true. Yeah.
It seems to be very, very true, right?
Yeah.
So it's working for everybody but us, including some people, a lot of them who came here after us. So they ain't really like an immigrant. It is, we got racism and kind of things, but I've seen a lot of schools fail with like white people that love black people, that love kids, that want them to absolutely be great. There's been some unique individuals in my path, as all of us, but most of the people really, really want to see the kids shine.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
it takes away from like the teachers who are not like us, who did not grow up in our community, who just now get around us in the school. They're never really able to teach. Like when KG was working with us and they had him help that one teacher, who he was helping. He said the other teacher was like, "Yo, like I've never been able to teach like this. Like, thank God for you." He was only there for like 2 weeks before the pandemic hit. You know,
Really?
yeah. So
Wow. I mean,
you know,
that's funny, but it's not. It's sad. It's sad, and I don't know. I guess maybe we have to be like lobbyists and really try and change the system. But as you said, no one's really gonna want to change the system because it's working for everybody else but us.
yeah,
I'm like, we need to maybe just create like our own alternative schools and stuff like that where our kids are learning. Because like I said, back to that, our kids not learning. these kids not learning. Like this math that we teaching them, nope. They not getting them. We teaching them how to, even like I remember having a meeting the other day with some parents, and she was like, I don't understand. Like my kid is still in this reading help class and they still don't know how to read. Like, what are y'all doing?
Yeah,
And her question was legit.
yeah,
Like legit. This is a child that is logging on and doing the work. Child still don't know how to read. And I didn't really have an answer for her, honestly. Like I'm just like, okay, well, as long as he or she just continues with the program, but she right. Like, why doesn't she know how to read yet? She's been in it for 3 school years. You know what I'm saying?
yeah.
And that's, I don't know. I didn't have an answer.
But is school supposed to teach your son or daughter how to read?
No, mm-mm. Supposed to help.
No.
Yeah,
Nas is
supposed to
seven,
help.
he can read. Nas is
Yeah.
seven, he can read. You know? And it's in like at this when do we it's like we don't really have time to go back.
Yeah.
Like if you in seventh grade, seventh grade stuff, knowing that you can do seventh grade stuff. You know? So tough. I didn't even check the comments. Let's see.
You just
Um,
got choppy, bro. The last like two sentences you said. That's what me and Lovelock was looking like
Yeah, I didn't. Sorry.
I don't know what I said, but I know I said we gotta check the comments. This is my dad. He said I went to Morgan as well, but I majored in bridgeology. She may know what I'm talking about.
Yes, I do. The bridge. That's funny. I didn't know that. Yay, welcome, Morgan.
Yeah. Bridgeology. He,
So,
he always he always talks about that.
yes, the
Bridgeology.
faith has he been back to Morgan? The bridge isn't where it used to be. Like they moved the bridge all the way down East Cold Spring Lane. It's way different now.
It must have been a
Wait,
real distraction.
yeah,
It must
many
have been a
days
real.
on the bridge.
Let's see. And another teacher. Students who get time in DC are sent to YSC, but the children love it because it's structured and safe. Thus, the recidivism rate is still high. Um,
Hmm.
True, but it's really hard to get to YSC. Like it's
What's
very
YSC? What's that?
Youth Services Center on Mount Olivet. It's essentially a youth jail. It's
Oh,
a youth
okay.
jail. Yeah. We were actually about to do a program with them last year, but then COVID hit. Um, oh yeah, and she used to teach there. That's why she said that.
Wait, is
But
that called
it's
the
hard.
detention center?
Yeah, it's a jail. It's a jail.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah,
I think
it's a,
I think I know a teacher that works there now.
yeah, it's a jail. But it's hard to get there. Like after remember two years ago, we had that young lady who punched the old lady in the face on camera.
Oh yeah. Yep, I remember that.
It got locked up on a Friday. She
Mm-hmm.
was in school on Monday.
What?
That's yeah. That's the only student I've ever put out. I said, yo, I can't go for that. I said, Chris, you gotta come get it. Oh yeah, she slipped through the cracks and all that. No, and it's like the data. Like a kid can only be suspended so much. Once they're suspended a certain amount of days, it's got to get signed off by the chancellor, the superintendent. And it's like you're just forcing the problems to stay in school. And I'm
Cool,
not
right.
saying they got to go home, but they need a different kind of help because they're single-handedly
Clearly.
ruining the education for everybody else, and not just the class. Like they get a free pet, they can roam the halls. They
Mm-hmm.
be in different classrooms. We do these school shooter drills. There's no lock on my door, so we can
Right.
do all the drills you want. All they gotta do is open the door. Malcolm class is gone. You
Right.
know. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, I think maybe I don't know if y'all agree or not. Maybe our systematic solution to this is that we need to be have resources in line that teach different things in school so that the kids who have proven that they don't know how to use school yet can get the tools so they can come to school and actually learn.
I agree. That's differentiation. They want us to, to provide and have the kids show multiple ways that they understand or they've mastered a subject or a topic or unit. I
Mm-hmm.
absolutely agree with that 100% because, as you said, the way this is right now, it's not working for us. Um, but to hit that back, how do we as a collective who under like all of us that have this like mind, do we come together and just do it? Like, okay, I'm just going to do it. You know what I'm saying? Like, okay, whoever comes in and observes me, look, those kids over there, they doing X, Y, and Z this way because they haven't gotten this part. How do we do that? Because X, Y, and Z observer is going to come and say, or administrator is going to say, okay, well, they're not on the curriculum, and you know what I mean. So it's like I'm coming back to how do we do that? How?
Yeah, like and I taught this class a couple of times this semester. Um, it's I'm not gonna say the name of the class because I don't know who watched this joint, so you know what I'm saying. But it was kind of geared to giving students like life one-on-one skills, but the curriculum was so trash. Like 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 it you're laughing. It's not, it was true. Like to the point where, and now, this is my first, like, it was within like the first month I was at the school. I was like, I'm not teaching this. Yeah.
Mhm.
I was, and it actually got us a deal with that one school because they agreed to partner working with us because we combined three of the classes and I led it, and then I would do kind of similar lessons that we did with Game 7. And it was like three teachers in there and like 40, 50 students. And when I say the engagement was through the roof, because we literally turned it, I was like, I'm not teaching how to write an email. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, which is a great skill, right? But what these students need to know, like, what's their mindset like? Like, what's how do you get through resiliency? Like, what's planning ahead? Right, all of this. And when we talked about things like that, it was through the roof, right? So it's different things out there. The key is it just don't work, right? And a lot of times is unfortunately is people who haven't been in the classroom in years, right? I think that's one thing that makes us so successful is that we have people that have been through the trenches so we can understand, and that will continue to as we grow, as we move on from being educators and just working with Game 7, we're always going to be in the schools. So we get always see firsthand what the student needs. A lot of times is people just I've been working in education for 30 years, but you ain't been in the classroom in 25, but yet you want to tell the people how to run it, and that's not it. Like, you got to experience, you got to see, which is why you see people that come from like Teach from America and things like that. They be like, nah, yo, I'm out of here. And kind of how I stumbled into it, right? Like, I've always been great with people. People's always flocked with me, and I just stumbled into it. And it's kind of literally just been, I just talk like it's just me. I think well, you weren't there because you were pregnant, but like literally within like 2 days, I had like relationships with like all the students that I interacted with at Jordan. It's just because like I just treat them like little humans. Like, yo, like, you're not beneath me, not any of this. So it's definitely some things out there for sure. But the fact is that like it's just outdated, and simply
Right, outdated.
curriculum is just not, it's not it. It doesn't cut it.
So y'all gonna hire me at Game 7 Charter School so we could do this? Because we all got the different steps and stuff, different keys. But we gotta put it together because I think we all, kind of have the like mind. But I don't know. This is us. I don't know. Maybe we holding ourselves back from possibly doing something for our students, for our children, for the future. You know what I mean? Because
We
it's only gonna get worse.
we working, and we most definitely got you in mind. Trust,
Okay.
100%.
Big trust.
I guess like
That's
that's the key. Like, I gave up on school. I was like, all right, I'm gonna just teach this because
mhm.
this ain't this is not working. So like that's our answer is it's game 7. You know,
Mhm.
and it's like because a lot of the things that our community needs in school, teachers don't have.
Right.
They don't
Yeah.
have it. Like I like. Well, we ain't at school. An honest moment for me, I look at teachers not more females in game 7.
That's what's up.
And I just shake my head. It's like you just
I didn't
told
hear
this.
you.
I said I look at teachers sometimes, and I
Okay.
just shake my head, right? And it's like you just told this little girl she can do whatever she want to do and be whatever she want to be, but it's clear that you gave up on that,
Mhm.
right? Or you telling this little boy or little girl what to do, and you ain't never been through it. You don't have no kind of experience on it, right?
Right.
Because the way that it's set up now, the thing that we do the least is teach in the building.
Right.
I would say, which sounds kind of crazy. What we do the
Mhm.
most is meet. We meet
Right.
and we talk about teaching.
Right.
Like, okay.
Exactly.
And then
Mhm.
when we get to the class, we can't teach because the kids run the classroom.
Right. Yeah.
Right? And the one or two that just cussed you out or just got in a fight, they got put out for 5 minutes, but they have to come back because if they get put to in school for one period out of the day, it counts as an entire day, and they can
Right.
only get suspended for 7 days before it has to go 10 days, and before it has to go to the superintendent, and you get to fight. And there's only a suspension if somebody has significant bodily harm, right? So it's like we got all of these other things to do, and we can't teach. So I'm not a complainer. So that's the primary reason why we came up with this program is to help in the ways that we believe that students need to be helped, and not even students, like just people. Like we started off with just students, but we noticed that when we would go talk, the adults were in the back like, yeah, 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 yeah. Or the
Right.
administrators come like, what are you guys doing to get them to be so still? And these kids are normally the reason why our school is so crazy. It's like, bro, we just talked to them.
Right.
Like we talked to them. We made a little book of all of our
Mhm.
gyms and all that kind of stuff. And we just talk to them and we run around, you know. And we're not dressed up in no suit like we work at Wall
Right.
Street. We're
Mhm.
not all corporate. Like, yo, you essentially in a big YMCA. Like, just chill out, teach them
Yeah.
what they gotta learn. But I want to be respectful of your time. So we appreciate you. Thanks for sharing so much about your life. Thanks for
Yeah.
throwing in our 20-minute conversation on education. Are you going to join us in the morning when we talk about math?
Yeah. I am. Mhm.
Okay, dope. All right, so we'll see you again tomorrow. Talk about some more education from a much, much, much broader aspects. I'm very, very excited to get on there tomorrow. So, anything you would like to say in closing before we go?
Um. I do want to say I appreciate one, of course, this opportunity just to kind of talk about who I am. But I appreciate you, Malcolm. Um, I appreciate you, of course, as a teacher, but just as a person. You just different things that you kind of sent me. Um, I don't know if I'd say you've inspired me, but you know what? Yes, you've inspired me. And I think that that's dope at my age that I can still be inspired to just to be better than what I am now. You're pushing me like the different teachers in the past, and I appreciate that. I think that everything what you're doing is dope. Anything that you need me to do, I'm here 100%.
Appreciate that. Appreciate that.
No
And I've always told you, like I see things in you, just like Mr. What's his name, Sharfman, that
Yeah.
are beyond the woman that you show. Not in a
Mhm.
bad way, but I just believe that you have more, and you say like people always say that about me, like I should be a speaker or I should be something. But as long as we here, we gonna find a way to get it out of you. So proud of you, appreciate you, and we will see you all in the morning, 9 o'clock, when we talk about why black kids suck at math. Peace out.
All right.